Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our well, it used to be weekly, but our special DemPed Town Hall on VaxDC, the Vax requirements for indoor facilities. We will be beginning here shortly, so we have a lot of people joining us, so we want to give time for those joining us on the WebEx, also those watching on social media and on Channel 16. We want to welcome you. Again, we want to give time for people to hop on, so we'll get started here in just a moment. But thank you again for joining us for the DemPed Town Hall on the vaccine requirements for indoor facilities, also known as VaxDC. Want to remind everybody about a few housekeeping items before we get into the program for today. If you are on the WebEx link participating, you will be able to ask your questions during our Q&A portion of the program by simply chatting into the chat box, or you can raise your hand by your name on the WebEx tool. And that will allow for us to go into some Q&A a little bit later in the program. We're trying to reserve as much of the program as possible for Q&A because we want to hear from you, your questions, your concerns, or what you need clarity on as we prepare for the implementation of the VaxDC vaccine requirement. So again, you can ask your questions in the chat. You can also go on and raise your hand if you're on the WebEx tool. If you're watching on social media, you can also ask your questions right there on Facebook and on Twitter. And we will get some social media questions as well. So that will be a portion of the program where we will dedicate to Q&A. Today, we will be joined by Deputy Mayor John Falticchio shortly for the Deputy Mayor of Planning and Economic Development. We will also be joined by Patrick Ashley, Senior Deputy Director for DC Department of Health. We will be joined by Director Angie Gates of the Office of Cable, Television, Film, and Entertainment. I think I got that right. Angie will let me know if I didn't. And then myself, I am Tomas Salmonte. I am Deputy Chief of Staff to the Mayor. So we want to thank you all for joining us today for this program. And we'll get started here shortly. We have a lot of people joining us, so we want to give time for people to get on and to ensure that we can get to everyone to get the important information that they came here to get. Want to remind everyone as well a few housekeeping items at the start. For any downloads or any information related to the VaxDC program, we do have the website live now. That is at vaxdc.dc.com. Again, that's vax, V-A-X-D-C.dc. .gov, sorry, not .com, sorry about that. So vax.dc.gov. You can go there. You can get information related to the VaxDC vaccine requirement, and then we have downloadable signs, which we'll talk through a little bit here in a moment, and we'll be able to answer your questions related to what's on the website there as well. Again, we will get started here in just a moment. One more housekeeping reminder before we go into the program. We want to make sure that if you have questions during the Q&A portion of the program, you can ask directly on the chat here on WebEx. You can also raise your hand and we'll call on some of our business leaders here to get your questions related to the VaxDC requirement shortly. If you are watching on social media, you can directly ask your questions on the Twitter, comment on the Twitter stream or on the Facebook stream, and we'll get to some of those social media questions as well. And so we'll get started here in just a moment. And again, we'll get started here in just a moment. Reminder again for all of your information related to the VaxDC vaccine requirement. You can go to vaxdc.dc.gov. Again, that's vaxdc.dc.gov. We have that up on the screen as well. And then want to remind everyone again, one last time on the housekeeping items. If you have questions, you can ask them in the chat. We will get to Q&A portion, which will be the predominant time we have reserved for the program today. Directly in the chat, you can raise your hand using the raise your hand tool. and we will start in 3 minutes, the slides and the presentations. You can also ask on social media, Twitter and Facebook, directly there. We will get to some of those questions, which we will be excited to take some of your questions from social media. And then finally, want to remind everyone again, that website, make sure you go to it. We will post the slides, post the presentation on the website so that you have them, so you can refer back to them. We already have a lot of pertinent information related to the VAX-DC requirement on the website, so you can go there now. One thing too, and we'll really emphasize this a little bit later in the presentation, but want to remind everyone, the signage that is part of the VAX-DC program is available right now for businesses to download at vaxdc.dc.gov. We also have signs that we will be distributing in the community, copies of this. So you can get it up right now. We will also be visiting businesses to give you those signs to get up on your establishment, but that's all available on the website. And again, our speakers today will be Deputy Mayor John Falchicchio, the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. We will be also joined by Angie Gates, the Director of the DC Office of Cable, Television, Film, and Entertainment, and we'll also be joined by Patrick Ashley, who is the Senior Deputy Director for DC Department of Health. And then we have some fun additional announcements that will come later in the program from 2 additional speakers, which we're excited about. But again, we're going to get started here in just a minute on the presentation. And so thank you all for being on. We're just waiting for a few more speakers to jump on, and then we will get started, and a few more of our attendees. We're still getting a lot of people joining in right now. Our count's going up, so we want to just give time for everyone to be on, and we'll get started here in just a moment. So we thank you. Again, that website is vaxdc.dc.gov. Also, just want to remind everyone for all of additional information just related to the district's COVID response and recovery efforts, you can go to coronavirus.dc.gov at any time. We have our health guidances, including our best practices and tips for businesses on the health guidance page. We also have just other pertinent information also related to vaccination sites. I know that's a very important, obviously a big topic for today, but very important to ensuring that everyone gets vaccinated and gets their booster, which is also important information that we want to share. So those locations are available at the coronavirus.dc.gov site. We also have PCR and rapid antigen tests on all of our testing team, who have helped us to get thousands and thousands of these rapid tests out to our residents. Those locations are available on the site. And we have locations open throughout the week, and we want to make sure that you are sharing that information with your networks, and also going to pick up your tests. We want to make sure that you utilize that service. So that again is at coronavirus.dc.gov, and you can find all of those testing locations for picking up your rapid tests, and to keep yourself safe, keep your staff safe, keep your family safe. And we all want to thank all of our testing team and our volunteers that have been helping us throughout the week to prepare those tests for residents to be able to take home. That has been exciting. So we'll get started here in just a second. All right, we're going to begin with the presentation, and we'll come to a few of our speakers here in a moment. So again, thank you all so much for being here. And I'm going to go to the next slide, 2 slides actually. So just give us a moment. And we'll hear from Deputy Mayor Falchicchio, and just so we can go to the next slide. We'll hear from him in just a moment. I am again Tomas Telmont, the Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Bowser, and excited to highlight some of the items related to VAX-DC, the vaccine requirement, with all of you, and then answer your questions. We want to reserve a majority of our time for the VAX-DC portion of the program. So we're going to go to the next slide. And one more slide. So the Mayor Bowser announced that beginning Saturday, January 15th at 6 a.m., certain indoor establishments will be required to verify patrons ages 12 and older their vaccination, that they have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. And so today we'll be highlighting, we're calling that the VaxDC vaccine requirement. And so next slide. Will take effect on January 15th. And the timeline for the vaccine requirements, again, is by January 15th, 2022, establishments will need to verify that patrons 12 and older have received at least one dose of their COVID vaccination. And then by February 15th, 2022, establishments will need to verify of their patrons that they have received, they're fully vaccinated for ages 12 and older. And when Patrick from DC Health joins us here in a second, we'll make sure that he talks through what it means to be fully vaccinated and that cadence for people. And then again, we will begin enforcement of this vaccine requirement for the ages 12 and up, at least one dose of their vaccine on January 15th. Next slide. The covered locations that this is applying to, and again, we have the list of more additional examples of these facilities, and also the mayor's order related to this VaxDC vaccine requirement available at vaxdc.dc.gov. But proof of vaccination will be required at restaurants, bars and clubs, indoor cultural and entertainment facilities, indoor exercise and recreation establishments, and indoor event and meeting establishments. And there will be some exceptions carved out, as we've stated, for people briefly entering an establishment. So that's just quickly run in to use the restroom, for example, or to pick up an order for a to go or grab and go order. But we'll that information of that this is who this applies to, these establishments, and those establishments will be required to check at entrance of the patrons their vaccination status. And so I think the number one question we're getting is what counts as proof of vaccination, which we can go to the next slide. So acceptable types of proof of vaccine and this is just a list of a few examples of what is acceptable. So this is what we will ask that patrons establishments and businesses are verifying of their patrons at entrance for these indoor facilities. But again, they can show a proof of their vaccination by showing a CDC issued vaccination card, either an original photocopy, a digital copy. So, I know a lot of us have like a picture of our vaccine on our phones because a lot of the businesses on this line, a lot of y'all have been already requiring proof of vaccination for your patrons to enter. But those are just some examples of types of the vaccination card that can be acceptable. Also, what would be accepted is immunization record printout from the patient portal of their vaccine, a healthcare provider such as, Kaiser, any other sort of proof of an immunization record that is printed out or to show as proof. And then also they can utilize a COVID-19 verification app. I know some venues are already utilizing some of these verification apps such as Clear, such as VaxYes, so that can count as well as a proof of vaccination. Next slide. Part of what is going to be required is posting of the signage at your entry point of your business to let people know that this business, this establishment is required to check proof of vaccination to enter the facility. And so again, those signs are currently available at vaxdc.dc.gov, where you can go and you can print them out and print and put them up. We will be making those signs available in multiple languages as well. So we want to make sure that people are aware of that requirement, and we'll make sure that that's accessible in multiple languages. Also, we have printed out thousands of these signs for businesses as well. So you can print it out today, start posting it right at your entry point, or we will also be by with our Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture, our Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, our MOCRs, our Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. We will be out in the community making sure to pass these signs out. You guys are probably used to us coming out to your businesses and providing signages, whether it's for mask back when we with the mask mandate, to other signage that we've been out in the community passing out. We are going to be doing that again in the coming days with these the signage for businesses related to the vaccine requirement. But that is available right now for download at vaxdc.dc.gov. And we will, again, be providing those in the community. We want to make sure that they're posted in a visible place at your entrance, point of entrance for patrons to see right away. And again, checking that proof of vaccination at the point of entrance to make sure that that your business is complying with the vaccine requirement. We'll go to the next slide. And so unfortunately, Director Solana van der Nat is not able to join us today. But again, what she was going to highlight with the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture is just that we are going to be out in the community handing out these signs to businesses. So just look forward to us coming to your businesses. We're going to be hitting up the business corridors, but also just throughout the city in all 8 wards to make sure that we get these signs out to businesses. Again, if you're already able to download and print that sign and put them up, you can do so right now. The signs are all available. And then again, in the coming days, we will have them available in multiple languages for download as well. And so the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture will be there to provide some of those signages for you. Also, we want to make sure that you, if there are additional questions that follow today's presentation, and again, we'll have the guidance up in the coming days on vaxdc.dc.gov for businesses. And the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture will also be distributing that guidance out through their listserv and through their and to businesses directly. But we want to make sure that if you have any additional questions, that you reach out to the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture. They will be there to help troubleshoot any additional follow-ups. And make sure that we are there to answer any of your questions related to that. So we can go to the next slide. So I want to pass it now. We're going to hear from Director Gates. Before we go to Director Gates, though, I want to remind everyone, again, we're going to get to Q&A here in just a moment. So want to remind you of the Q&A housekeeping items so that we can effectively answer your questions during that portion. So again, if you are joining us on the WebEx, you can ask your questions directly in the chat, or you can raise your hand using the WebEx raise your hand feature. If you're joining us on social media, whether through the Twitter stream or the Facebook stream, you can directly ask your questions there. And we'll get to some of those questions through Twitter and through Facebook. If you have any additional questions later, again, feel free to reach out to Solana and the Mayor's Office of Nightlife team. And they can ask any additional questions that maybe we weren't able to cover, or when the guidance is released, if you have any additional questions, they'll be there to help you troubleshoot. And I know Angie, also Director Gates, will be there to help as well. So Director Gates, I want to pass it to you if you can just deliver a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone had a very happy holidays. I want to first commend Mayor Bowser and the steps that she's taken to make sure our creative community and the creative businesses are running and operating in a safe manner. I have the privilege of working with Greg Odell as co-chair of the Reopen Faith, Arts, Culture, Entertainment, Sports, and Hotels Committee. And I've been in touch with not only the guests that frequent the various live events, but the operators. And so I wanted to just take a moment and thank everyone and stress the importance. We know music is the universal language. We know we have a very diverse and vibrant creative community, but more importantly, we have to take these steps to remain open. I'm on the phone and on calls all the time with various talent locally and nationally who wants to continue to come to Washington, D.C. and make sure that we remain open. So taking these specific date steps to get vaccinated is important. And we're here to help serve and help take whatever questions, answers to deliver to your patrons or the business operators with whatever you may need. I'm always a phone call away. You can reach me at 202-671-0066 anytime. We will be out in the community, and we've made it a point to frequent and visit the various establishments, particularly in the live entertainment area, just to be there as a resource on site as needed. So I just want to thank everyone, and this is very important for us to continue in this direction.
Thank you so much, Angie, and appreciate you providing that quick update. We're going to get to Q&A in here just a moment. Again, but Patrick Ashley from DC Health is on. We covered the main slides, but I want to just provide Patrick with a few opportunity just to give a few intro remarks before we go to Q&A. And so Patrick, if you would, we will go to you real quick. And you have to unmute yourself, Patrick.
Sorry about that. Apologies for not being unmuted and sorry for being late. So double sorries here. Anyway, thanks so much for the introduction, and glad you guys had a chance to cover the vaccine mandate here. And so it's just, we want to talk about the importance of getting vaccinated. And this is really why we're doing this initiative, is not only to get into vaccinated, but to keep businesses in the community safe. And we know that individuals who are vaccinated are far less likely to end up in the hospital and far less likely to die. And that's the most important piece here. And so by enabling this, we can encourage individuals to get vaccinated and protect the community at the same time. So appreciate your partnership in this initiative.
Thank you, Patrick. And I know that John is on. We're trying to move him to the speaker group, so just give us a moment there. But we're going to go to Q&A. So I want to thank everybody for being on. I'm just going to remind everyone one more time before we get to the question and answer portion. I'm seeing lots of questions come in through the chat. And so I want to just thank everybody for utilizing the chat. But again, if you have any questions, you can ask directly on the chat if you're on WebEx. That is just directly asking on the chat function. You can also raise your hand using the raise your hand tool on WebEx. And then if you're joining us by social media, you can ask your questions directly there through on the Twitter feed or on the Facebook feed. John, you are a panelist now. So John, if you want to give some quick remarks before we go into the Q&A.
Definitely. So appreciate, I see some questions in the chat. So I'm going to direct Patrick to look at those and start screening those. One thing I would highlight is that we are still putting together the guidance. We hope to release it by the end of the week. And what we're hoping for is a conversation with you all today to actually discuss, obviously to walk you through the slides as Tomas did, to show you the direction that we're going. And there are probably some questions that we won't be able to answer because we're still putting together the guidance. But Patrick's going to do his best to give us a sense of the direction. I know there have been some questions posed to me over the course of the last few days about, whether if people claim a religious or medical exemption, what sort of proof of a negative test they have to present. And I see that in the chat. We are working on, and if you go to vaxdc.dc.gov, vaxdc.dc.gov, that's where you'll find the information that we've posted so far about this. So want to make sure that you all know that that's going to be a resource where we'll upload more information. I saw a question from Jason about specific signage. Just like when we had the mask requirement put in place, we created a sign so that everybody had a universal sign that they could use. So we'll do that again. We have seen some people use their own sign, which is okay as well. And in some ways, it's been more creative than what we present to folks. But the universal sign does let people know that when they walk into your establishment, that they are supposed to be ready to present that proof of vaccination, which is going to be important because not every business is covered by this requirement. So with that, I'll turn to Patrick and Tomas. And Tomas, should Patrick just go to the chat and maybe pull out some of the questions there. I know not
Yeah.
everybody is watching on the chat, but for those who are and can see the chat, I don't know, Patrick, if you want to take a crack at those questions first.
Sure, happy to. I'll take a crack at some of them here. So the first question is from Jennifer Rosser, and it says, "Good afternoon. Our business is responsible for cross-checking proof of vaccine with picture ID. Is there an option for patrons to show proof of negative test? Can proof of vaccine checking occur inside, for example, at the indoor restaurant host stand?" And so as of right now, there is no ID requirement for the vaccine card. We want to make this as simple as possible for individuals to simply show a picture of their vaccine card, one of the apps that we've talked about. It's a letter from their healthcare provider. Very flexible on what you can show to prove that you've been vaccinated. But there is not a option for a negative test. It is a vaccine requirement. And can proof of vaccination checking occur inside, for example, at indoor restaurant host stand? That would be okay. What we want to make sure that we're doing is that there's not a large group of individuals. And so social distancing is still important in this time of cases. And so if there's any opportunity to move that outside or to make sure that it's not a large group of individuals at the front host stand, we would prefer that. The next question was from Jason Rondu that says, "Do we have to use a specific sign or can we design one?" I believe John covered that. Andrew Huff said, "Question, how does the mandate apply to hotel guests?" And I'm going to turn that one over to John to answer.
Yeah, so right now that is for hotels, it would be in the restaurant areas and in the meeting spaces. And so we've been talking to the Hotel Association to try to get a sense of how that could be implemented. And it seems like it would be sort of similar to that question about like the host stand at the restaurant. And if there's not a host stand at the place of service at the restaurant. And then for events and meetings, really, I think what most hotels will do in order to operationalize this is put that onus on the event planner or meeting planner. So I've had it happen a couple times at events that are ahead of this requirement where they've asked everybody to be vaccinated. And simply where you check in, where you get your name ID, that's where they've done the vaccine check. And that would be fine with us. But as Patrick mentioned, we do want to try to think about event organizers to think about ways that that's done in a socially distant way. Of course, with the mask requirement, everybody would be masked up at that time as well because they'd be inside. But this is the covered locations. So when you think about a hotel, think about the event meeting space or the bar and restaurant or nightclub that's in that hotel. And that's the point at which the vaccination should be checked.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. The next question is about which agency is tasked with enforcement of the mandate. There's a number of different agencies that have regulatory enforcement over the spaces listed on the screen that Tomas is showing. And so we'll have more information about enforcement in the coming on the website, but there's a number of agencies here that have covered the regulatory space of this. Jason Rondu asked, how do we handle those with medical conditions that prevents them from being vaccinated or for religious exemptions? First and foremost, I just, as the Department of Health, there are very few medical reasons why individuals cannot be vaccinated. And so we want to encourage people to get vaccinated first and foremost. But we will provide more information in the coming days about how specifically to handle those circumstances. So that we do that in a way that is not overly burdensome to the businesses. Justin asked, are vaccines approved by the WHO but not FDA recognized, notably the AstraZeneca vaccine? Those would be allowed. We recognize that we have a diverse population that comes to DC. And so any of the WHO approved vaccines would be acceptable. And we also know that the records for those vaccines may look a little bit different. They may not be on the CDC card, but many of those jurisdictions have different applications or different cards. And so again, it's really about making sure that you can verify that they were vaccinated more so than the form that it takes. The next question is about live performance venues, and will artists or performers be required to be vaccinated or only guests? And I'm not sure if Deputy Mayor Falchicchio wants to take that, or Director Gates.
Well, I could take a crack at it. Remember that this is a vaccine requirement. It's not an employer mandate. And so we're very supportive of the Biden administration's work on employer mandates. And we know that that's working its way through the courts on how that will be enforceable. So for right now, this is really aimed at guests, patrons, and visitors of venues that are covered. And if you're watching where you could see the screen, you see the covered locations. So for those artists and performers, they wouldn't be considered a guest. They would be considered an employee for these purposes, or a worker for these purposes. So it's not a requirement because of this vaccine requirement. Again, we're supportive of the Biden administration's work on the employer mandate, and we're monitoring closely as that works its way through the courts.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. The next question is where the vaccine check occurs. We've covered that previously. The following question is, how does DC require people to get vaccinated when there are 2 to 3 waits to get a dose of vaccine? The reality here is people have had 377 days to get vaccinated, and we have plenty of vaccine locations available throughout the city. And so the district government operates pop-up clinics and vaccine clinics at libraries that allow people to get vaccinated today. We also know many of our providers provide walk-in appointments. And the requirement for this mandate goes into effect on January 15th. So it does give individuals some time to get that first dose. Andrew Huff asked the question, how does the mandate apply to coffee shops that do not have indoor seatings? And so there's an exception carved out here that allows individuals who are briefly entering an establishment to place an order, use a restroom, pick up an order, where that would likely apply to those coffee shops. Elkrim asked, is a booster shot required to be fully vaccinated after February 15th? At this time, the CDC's definition of fully vaccinated is individuals that have had 2 doses. And so that would be what would be for February 15th. Mark asked, this only applies to entertainment venues. How does the virus know whether or not someone is entering entertainment business or a retail business? It's important that we're taking steps to be able to protect the spread of COVID anywhere in the community. And so this vaccine requirement is an important step to prevent the spread as many places as possible. Tiffany from Buttercream Baking, thank you for doing this. Do we need to count number of months since vaccination, number of vaccine shots, or if they've gotten their booster? And so they do have to have their first shot by January 15th, and then they have to be have their full vaccination by February 15th. And so right now there is no requirement for a booster. And so just the key thing here is as of January 15th, we want them to have at least 1 shot, and as of February 15th, we want them to have 2 shots. We've answered the question that Dave asked about, does this apply to hotels? Vaccines are not required for outdoor dining, is correct. Thank you for that, Ruth. Sorry, just scrolling down here. Are movie theaters included in this? Asked by Betty Landsman. They are not currently included in this vaccine requirement. John, is that accurate? I'm sorry.
I think that they are. I'd have to check in the list of the entertainment. I believe they're under entertainment facilities. So I believe that they actually are.
Thanks for the clarification. Eric asked, 2 doses only accounts for those who took Pfizer, Moderna. If someone took J&J, they wouldn't have taken a second shot. So we do follow the CDC definition of fully vaccinated, and so would refer you to the definition of fully vaccinated. What should an establishment do when faced with an individual who proof of vaccine appears fake or there are reasons to doubt the card genuinely belongs to the individual who presents that? Generally, because the requirements, we want to make them as least burdensome on the businesses as possible. We do want to make sure individuals are presenting valid cards, but we do not want individuals to take additional steps to attempt to verify those cards at this time. And I believe that covers the major majorities of the questions. So I'll turn it back over to you, Deputy Mayor.
So I think there was one about, do you see this question from Sabrina about their first shot and their second shot? Really what we're looking for is by January 1, or excuse me, by January 15th, that they're presenting some verification of one shot, and by February 15th, the second shot. So I don't think you all have to sort of navigate when they will or when they have had their first shot and second shot, as long as they can present their first shot by January 15th and a second shot by February 15th. So I say that. And then to Cameron's question, Patrick, this goes back to what you were talking about earlier. For businesses without a host or door person, is it acceptable for the bartender or the person of first contact to do the vax check? And that is correct. However, we're asking those that do have that host or door person to be the one that checks. So for each business, we're asking you all to do so. Eric asks about membership-based venues with bars and restaurants. They would be covered by this. And so, and then Alan Rose asks about unruly customers objecting to the requirement. I know you all have had to deal with this with the mask requirement. We would ask that you do the same that you would do with any unruly person, that you utilize your own security. If there's an emerging issue, that you call for police assistance if necessary. And you all obviously know that a lot of people will have questions when this first goes into place. We're going to do our best to make sure we get out the word as much as possible so that it is front and center for when people are going out to the covered locations. But we do imagine that some people will not know about the requirement upon their first entry on January 15th. We've always, because I see some questions about fines and things like that and enforcement throughout the pandemic, especially as we put these new requirements on businesses, we've asked that we always lead, or given time, we've asked to have the time to lead with education, compliance, and then enforcement. And I imagine that will be the same way we approach this as well. So with that, Tomas, I don't know if you had a chance. I know we have some folks with us representing the industry, and that includes Kathy Hollinger and Greg Odell. Don't know if you had a chance to welcome them into the conversation, but to share some of what they have coming up and some of their feedback on this as well.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the slides. So just give us a second to go down to the upcoming events. But Kathy, welcome to the call, and want to go to you first, and then we'll hear from Greg Odell from Events CC. So Kathy, you should be able to unmute yourself any second here.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. Thanks for putting this on. I see a lot of our small business eateries on this WebEx, so that's terrific. And I see a lot of the questions that we've been getting have been asked directly and answered. You know, we have we have our winter restaurant week that's coming up in January. And of course, the timing of this, will be incredibly important. I think many of our operators were redirected during the holidays. And while last year looked very different, it was the same tone of operators trying to meet diners where they are, offering their great offerings in many different ways so that diners are comfortable, operators are comfortable, as well as staff. But this year, there will be more of a need to make up for a lot of lost revenue that happened over the holidays with redirects, cancellations. So while we get more information on the vax mandate and the guidelines around it, please know that we will share as an association to all of the operators in the industry, so there's clarity. But Restaurant Week is September. We're going to be in January, January 17th through 23rd. Similar offerings of brunch, lunch, and dinner at great price points, but really designed to encourage the region to come out and support their small businesses. And for those who are not a part of the industry on this call, to be able to share with their networks and their constituents that this is a high need to support a great promotion that we do every year, but particularly this winter.
Thank you, Kathy. And I know Greg has some updates on some upcoming events for Events DC. So Greg, you should be unmuted.
Thank you, Tomas. Just first, I want to thank you all for having this call. I hope everyone had a wonderful, or still having a wonderful holiday, and can remain as safe as possible. So, we are, despite this surge that we're all experiencing, we're very optimistic. I should say cautiously optimistic. We have a full slate of events that are coming up in the new year, both from our conventions and meetings division, as well as our sports and entertainment division as well. Just to name a few, as early as January 5th, we'll have a convention called Modern Language Association. We'll have the Transportation Research Board on January 9th. We'll even have a cheerleading competition on the 15th. And then favorite for many people, we'll have the auto show coming in on January 21st. And so those are just examples that we've been working very closely. I want to thank our team and thank Destination DC as well, and the partnership. We've been working extremely hard and closely with our customers and our partners, really to just touch base with them, make sure that they are still moving forward with their events. And right now, again, given the surge, I think everyone's cautiously optimistic, and we're hoping at this bit of time between now and early January that we'll see some of these rates start to decline. Similarly, on the sports entertainment side, we're going to have a lot of event activity planned as well. In the Armory, you'll see in mid-January, we'll have the Dinosaur Adventure. We'll also have high school wrestling, and at our entertainment sports arena, we have a lot of programming there at that facility as well. The Capital City Go-Go will continue to play, which is our G League team. But then we'll also have the UConn women, the iconic UConn women's basketball team will play Georgetown. That's as early as January 5th. And then for those wrestling fans, we'll have AEW wrestling will actually be mid-January. And then we'll also have even USA women's basketball playing in February, early February, and then we'll have another round of our Beltway boxing professional event that we've already had earlier this year. And so, again, we will continue to work with our customers and make sure that their program moves forward. They are and will be obviously compliant with the vaccine mandate. Many of them, as the deputy mayor mentioned, have procedures in place. We will work to support that with the technology we have in the building to do so. But we're excited with the fact that many of our customers have already moved to vaccine mandate already. And so that's really will dovetail nicely with the mayor's objectives. And we hope for event programming. We hope to see our attendance ramp up for these events as the rates subside. So thank you for the time to share. And we hope that we can move forward in the event programming in the near future.
And then, Greg, just looking further ahead to cherry blossom season, is going to be full swing this year, in person. All that is lined up. If you have anything to add on that, or
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, no, they are virtual no longer and been planning in overdrive thanks to Diana Mayhew and her team. And so that will be, as you mentioned, Deputy Mayor, a live event, and expect the attendance for what they had pre-COVID, and also even other partners like the Jazz Festival will also be looking to do their event live. And so I think we're going to see lots of particularly the citywide events will come back in live event format, which we're very excited about.
Great, I appreciate that. And I do see a question in the chat from Jason. What is the city doing to educate residents and visitors regarding new mandate, so it's not left to frontline hospitality retail professionals to do so and risk their safety in the workplace? So we are going to undertake a broad paid media effort to let folks know about this mandate, which is coming up on the 15th. One of the things that the mayor did just last week was to establish a new public emergency in order to retain some emergency procurement authority in order to do just that, to do paid advertising, and we'll have it across all platforms. Look to see it in newspapers, in mailers to residents' inboxes, into social media as well, across the billboards that we have access to. I see Tomas taking down notes because he helps us manage those ad buys. If there are areas that you think we should look to use some of our paid advertising resource, feel free to shoot me a note. My email address is very easy. It's john@dc.gov. So john@dc.gov. Definitely looking for how to reach residents and visitors, especially visitors, as they'll be coming to us. But we have been working with folks like Events DC and Destination DC to make sure it's very clear to tour operators what our requirements are as another way to get out the word. The other thing we'll be doing is the mayor does her regular updates. There'll be another one tomorrow at 11:30 a.m., which will be broadcast on her social media handles, Mayor Bowser on Twitter and Facebook, also on Channel 16. In that briefing, I bring that up not just because it'll be an opportunity to reiterate that the vaccine mandate will be in effect on January 15th. It also is a time when we'll talk about how we'll implement this new CDC guidance that came out just yesterday. That guidance about when individuals who have tested positive who when they could exit from isolation. We're expecting that DC Health will have our updated guidance at tomorrow's briefing. So I know Kathy had reached out and some others had reached out to see how we would implement that new CDC guidance that came out just yesterday. Our plan right now is to talk more about that tomorrow at Mayor Bowser's briefing at 11:30 a.m. Tomas, I don't see any other questions that we haven't gotten to in the chat. So I wonder if there's any other streams of questions that are coming in at this point that we should address.
Nope. We've pretty much answered all of the questions that were on social media as well. Very similar questions to what were asked in the chat. So I think we are covered on the questions.
Okay. And then I'll look to Angie Gates and Solana to see if there's anything else to add in observations, questions as well.
I think we're good on our end. We're available at any point over at the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment to assist the residents, creative businesses, and creatives in general with anything related to the vaccination. So we're easily reached and you can find us anytime, but we're here to serve and make sure that we proceed in a very safe yet precautious manner.
Well, thank you, Director Gates. Tomas, if I don't see you signal for any other questions, I think we can close out. I want to make sure, though, Tomas, that I'm getting the website right. vaxdc.dc.gov, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so vaxdc.dc.gov is where we'll continue to put up more guidance, put up more things, more tools like the signage that was asked about earlier. We'll make sure that we keep populating that website with more information. Our hope is that we have more detailed guidance by the end of this week that DC Health is working on as it relates to the vaccine requirement. So I'll look to Patrick Ashley, and unless there's anything else, close out with that.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, and thanks everybody for joining. Just a reminder, if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated, check on your families and friends and employees and neighbors and make sure that they've been vaccinated. But more importantly, make sure that everyone has gotten boosted. Boosted is so important these days, especially as we're seeing surges of cases. So if you stopped after one shot or two shot, it's not too late to get that second shot or third shot. So please, 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 please go and get it and check on your friends and family as well. Thank you.
And Patrick, because you mentioned it, we do have the website, taketheshotdc.com, which is where you could find all of our vaccine access points. And then also, I know there's been a lot of questions about the availability of testing and rapid testing. So Patrick, do you mind just kind of talking about what we'll do this week and what folks can expect in the days ahead?
Yeah, so DC has pushed out a significant number of PCR-based tests and rapid antigen tests over the last several weeks here. So we have PCR-based testing available at 36 different libraries throughout the city, and those can be collected 7 days a week, and you can pick those up from the local libraries. No DC ID is required for that. That's open to anybody who wants to get tested. We also have a number of pop-up clinics, one at Farragut Square every weekday. We also have pop-ups throughout the city, and you can view that at coronavirus.dc.gov/testing in all the locations. We also have rapid antigen testing now available. So those are the results that you can get within 15 minutes that are available to DC residents at 8 of our libraries. And those are available Monday through Saturday. And you can get that information at coronavirus.dc.gov/testing. And find out where the closest one is to you.
And just to be mindful, we do have a graphic I know we can share with the different email lists and get out on social media that has our testing for this week. It's a little bit different given the holiday this weekend, but we do actually have rapid test giveaways on both, or distribution, I should say, on both Friday and Saturday. And we have it again on Sunday. With one in-person testing site on Sunday. So I want to make sure that we're mindful of everybody's time, know how busy you all are. And so what we'll do is we will work to update the guidance as it relates to the vaccine mandate, actually the vaccine requirement by the end of this week. We'll also, again, have a situational update with Mayor Bowser tomorrow at 11:30. That's where you can expect more information about how we'll implement the CDC guidance that was released just yesterday about those who are positive and how they exit isolation. So I want to thank our partners at the Restaurant Association and Events DC for being part of this conversation today and helping us get out the word about it. Also to Director Gates and to Solana and Patrick and Tomas, thank you for your help pulling this together. And we'll be in touch soon. Be sure to keep checking out vaxdc.dc.gov for the latest information about the vaccine requirement. Tomas, I think we'll close it out there.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. Again, go to the website for all your information, including the signage. And we just want to thank you all for being here with us today. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Have a good day. Thank you. Happy New Year.